Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. If you've been a follower of mine, you know that I really enjoy meeting interesting companies and entrepreneurs and seeing what they're doing. And I was at a pitch night on Friday night in downtown Toronto, and a guy from Mississauga presented, I think, an incredibly interesting solution for a lot of the communication problems that we're all encountering during the last couple of years of COVID and working from home and talking and stuff like this. So I wanted to hear what his story is and share it all with you. So I want to introduce you all to Utukuri, and his company is an interesting company. Remind me the name of the company, Av?
It's Vizetto. Hey, great meeting you, Brian.
Vizetto. And what Vizetto is a company that is sort of an add-on, I think, to Zoom or Teams or other things that we all might use, and makes it far more interactive. And I love one of the things that you said, which was, and hopefully you'll repeat it with greater accuracy, but you said that in lots of studies, 90-95% of the value comes from the presenter, not from the slides. And yet the vast majority of time when we're making presentations, 95% or 100% of the screen is filled with the slide, and the person ends up being this little tiny speck down the bottom. I thought that was really interesting. So Av, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian.
So tell me, how did you get involved in launching this business?
Oh, it's an interesting story. About 5-6 years ago, I started a hardware company that invented a new type of touchscreen technology. So if you think, look at John King on CNN, you know, the election night touchscreen. So it's our tech that got in there.
Magic wall.
Yeah, the magic wall is ours. Okay, we did all that. And we did.
I want the magic wall, or I got to get it from you.
Absolutely, we can set it up for you. Actually, most broadcast systems out there use ours. There's a ton of those products around the world. And I was constantly imagining, Minority Report, where people pull up information and do all sorts of cool things, but I never found a use case for it. It was cool. People would be wowed. And originally we thought this would be a TED Talk thing. People are walking on stage. There's massive screens everywhere with nothing but like a gradient background. You've all seen that, right?
Yep.
There's huge AV systems just to have a little logo. I'm like, you can animate all this. You could make it be interactive, but that market was too small. We went into retail, digital signage, end caps. Imagine all the barbecues you can, pop up and visualize and do your CSI magic bit. It didn't work because who's going to pay for it? We went down a variety of different paths, and COVID happened, and CEO after CEO looked at my demos and said, can you help me sell my stuff like this? What do you mean? Well, we sell a widget, we sell a paperclip, we sell a service. We have a solution, and all we do is put up a deck and we talk. I don't think it's particularly impressive. And what I started doing was I started talking to all sorts of professional speakers. I spoke to hundreds. I think last year alone, I booked 600 meetings to talk to professional speakers and coaches and facilitators to understand. And I also talked to a lot of neurologists and psychologists to understand how the brain works. And what happens is, here's a story that I love to start with is, let's say we're meeting face-to-face and I put a paper bag on my head and I show up at your office and I go, hey, Brian, sorry, I don't want to take my paper bag off. And then I sit in front of you and we have a 30-minute long conversation and I walk away. Would that be a positive conversation?
No.
Exactly. But proverbially, that's what we do. We put a paper bag on and say, I'm not important. And study after study, there's functional MRI studies that show when you're not watching a person and you're looking at a deck, 90% of your neural activity disappears. So you're following.
I'm going to tell you an interesting story. I've interacted with this one guy who I guess has two screens, and he puts a lot of the information on one screen, and then the camera's on a different screen. And so all he's doing is looking, I think, really at you and or the information, but his eyes aren't looking at you. And people complain about it all the time. They say, the guy's not paying attention. He's doing emails. He's like working about his accounting. He's not paying attention to the meeting.
So, Brian, do you have kids?
I do. Okay,
so go back to when they were a few weeks old. The first thing that babies learn to do is lock your eyes with you as a parent. I remember this when we had our little girls. I remember talking to my wife going, if they didn't look at you and suddenly smile and goo or ga at your eyes, you'd be like throwing them out the door because going, why am I waking up every morning like 5 times a night, in the night to go ahead and take care of you? It's that that's interaction, right?
Yep.
It's that engagement. And you're bang on. In the virtual workspace, in the future of work, remote work, if people are not engaging each other, how are we going to go ahead and promote? How are we going to buy? How are we going to build trust? How are we going to communicate? I think it's a really serious challenge.
So you've come up with a solution.
We've come up with
Vizetto.
Vizetto is a company. The product is called Reactive Suite.
Reactive Suite.
Yeah, and Reactive is a bunch of different apps that allow you to transform any type of Zoom or Teams meeting. You want to see it?
And you're going to show a little bit of us?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. And we're going to take a break for some messages and do it right afterwards. But tell me, so this app costs how much? How do you get it?
$30 a month is what we're targeting it for. And you go to our website, download it. There's a completely free trial. There's also a free mode where you don't have to pay anything. There's just going to be a banner ad that says powered by Reactive, and you can use it for free. Fantastic.
Okay, we're going to take a break for some messages and come back in just 2 minutes with Utukuri, who is the CEO of a fascinating company that has got this new add-in that goes atop of Zoom or Teams or other things like this that makes it more user-friendly, interactive, dynamic, etc. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be back in just 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. We're talking tonight about a way to make presentations, conversations online far more dynamic. We've got our guest, the CEO of Vizetto, a gentleman by the name of Utukuri, who's from Mississauga, and he's got I think, a really interesting new solution, and he's going to tell us a little bit about it. Go ahead, Av.
Okay. So, Brian, let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so normally, every Zoom meeting, you already pointed this out. This is how we communicate with each other.
The screen is filled with the slide, and the individual is just a tiny little speck on the bottom.
Exactly. But you're supposed to be talking to me for the next half an hour, not my slide deck. You're literally staring at the wall. Yep. What we do is we kind of transform this experience into something I hope you feel is immersive.
So you make the screen sort of an add-in in the corner of the screen, but where you're speaking from ends up being the majority of the screen.
That's right. So what you see is I fill up the screen, my camera image. This is the opposite of what Zoom or Teams do. And my deck is floating in front of me as if it's a piece of paper. So imagine there's a piece of glass. I'm sitting on the other side of the desk from you. And I take the piece of paper we're communicating and I put it up on the piece of glass. So we're through the drive-in window. Yep. This is the drive-in window concept, right? And the most
pretty cool, actually, how you get it to sort of appear up in front of you and your ability to move it around.
Absolutely, because I might want to show you something. I might have a product to show you, or I do want to make this larger because you're looking at more information. I have complete control over it. But the most important aspect is there's two concepts of neuroscience. One's called associative learning. Brian, if you ever wanted to remember 5 things, have you ever been told make a rhyme out of it? Make a story out of it? Okay, that's because our brain has a hard time remembering one piece of data on its own.
That's why songs and poems are so easy to understand.
Exactly.
Great rhetoric from good speakers. Typically, African Americans in the United States that are preachers are really good at making rhymes out of things they have to say.
Absolutely. So associative learning means that my first job ever, I remember in a sales job, my boss gives me the business card and says, do not put it in your back pocket. Hold the business card while you're talking to someone. You will never forget that conversation. 5 years later, you pick up the card, you'll remember it, right? And that's kind of called associative learning. You remember the logo. So the first thing that Reactive does is put your name up in lights with your logo and your title. So as you're talking to me, you will have my proverbial business card in front of you. If you see that logo or the name, instantly the conversation will come back.
Well, there's this concept of guanxi in China, where one passes on a business card, and the way you pass on a business card is as if you're presenting a photograph, and you put it out in front of you with two hands, and the way you receive it is you take it with two hands and you study it like it's a photograph, and you keep it in front of you, and you try to make an association of some sort between what you read on, oh, you're from Mississauga, I know someone in Mississauga, or you're do you know Camilla Ray? And you try to make a connection so that you'll remember how you know the person.
Exactly, because those stories are what make the biggest impact, right? The second thing is how we create this immersive experience. Hopefully, you feel like you are on the other side of the table from me, and you're forgetting you're looking at a Zoom because you're talking to a real person, which means that I'm building trust with you. And the next thing is, that's why I'm presenting one of the biggest problems that actually happens in Zoom is you've already hit the nail on the head, which is lack of body language and gestures. I'm looking this way, you're talking to a person here. I might be talking about point number one, but you're reading over here. Your eyes, your ears are not in sync at all. See, what happens in real world is I can point to something and say, let's discuss this. Or I look down at a piece of paper on my desk, your eyes follow mine. We all know what we're talking about each other. But in the Zoom world, it doesn't happen.
Right.
What this does is it allows me to say, take a look at that. 70% of information is forgotten in 24 hours. Or did you know that 69% of execs don't believe remote sales are actually effective? Right? So that's the type of stuff that we can do in this particular technology, because I can actually write on the screen. Now, every time I write on the screen,
46% of people feel lonely and disconnected?
Yeah, right now on remote work.
That's huge.
That's huge, isn't it?
We all got to get back to the office, given that statistic.
Sorry?
We all got to get back to the office, given that statistic.
Well, absolutely. What's happening is remote work has flexibility, but we're no longer connecting with each other. See, you know what they say? When the going gets tough, it's the customers that you've built the relationship with. It's the partners, it's the employees that you've built culture and relationship with that get you through, right? It's not a transaction.
No question. Social capital.
Okay. Social capital, absolutely. So if I am constantly camera off, a tiny little postage stamp on the bottom of the screen, and we don't know each other, we've never broken bread, how is that social capital going to transform or transcend through those valley of death?
It doesn't.
Exactly.
You got to establish a relationship first.
Absolutely. And that relationship capital is where I think that remote work really struggles, because Brian, if you don't know that I did the work, you can't see my eyes to know that I'm paying attention. You're not going to remember me or take care of me when the promotion happens. You're not going to buy from me, the buying decision. You're not going to go ahead and partner with me. You're not going to call me back again for the next radio interview, because that social capital is not there. I'm just one more deck.
Okay, so tell us more about what this does. So number one, what it does is it gives us the reverse of Zoom or Teams or something like that, while it makes the presentation small and the individual, the presenter, still large.
Exactly. And the second most important thing is the ability to write and ink and highlight. Because are you noticing that I turn my head, because I have two monitors, and I did it the opposite way. I have my data on the other monitor. So I turn my head to that, and I'm looking there and I write something down. Hopefully you're paying attention to that. And then I turn back at you. Does this give you this immersion of looking at the same thing together?
Yes. Interesting enough, what you wrote down disappeared.
Yeah, we have multiple pens. So I have a pen where it's permanent ink. So if I'm actually marking something up and I found a mistake or something like that, I can do that. If I want to highlight something for you, I can just hit a button and then highlight. Or I can pick this disappearing ink where it just gives me a little bit of a splash of color so that you look in my direction, and then it very quickly fades out so it doesn't interfere with the design of the deck.
Fantastic. This is a better PowerPoint than PowerPoint.
Hopefully. See, PowerPoint is a piece of paper at the end of the day, right? Like how you use it. It's not people confuse a deck with a presentation tool. See, a deck it's just printed paper. That's what PowerPoint was designed for.
So how did you produce this deck?
This is PowerPoint.
And you're showing it with PowerPoint presentation mode, and you can still do all these things to it?
No, that's what Reactive does. What Reactive does is it takes your content. So as an example, here's a contract. It's a doc file. I just click on the doc file and it opens up the contract so I can walk you through. It doesn't matter what content you want to show. We just literally click this file right here and there's a video. And let's say I'm a doctor and I'm going to walk you through a procedure, or I'm going to train you as to, hey, this is where the issue is and this is where the scope's going to go through here. We have the opportunity to put up any content. All Reactive does is take your camera, your PowerPoint deck, and merges it all together to create this cool experience. So that's why it's so simple.
And this is an add-on that you have to launch at the same time, or what is this?
That's right. It's an add-on and it's a separate window. And after I launch Zoom, I just launch Reactive. I pick my file. I've configured my business card when you launch it and install it. And all I do is I can walk you through any type of content. And this is how I do every one of my pitches. Because these days, investors, partners, salespeople expect virtual pitches. And I can't live without this tool, because every demo I've done over the last 2.5 years of research of this product, 600 people will call you up and say, I still remember, when you did that pitch, which is very powerful.
Fascinating. That sounds fantastic. So tell me where you are in your company's launch.
So we did 18 months of beta testing. We had lots of different ideas, and a lot of this was grown out of thousands of people saying, no, this is what the art of the pitch is about. This is what, as an example, I never realized how important that business card is until someone who's an influencer told me, I use this complicated process by which I want to get my business card here, because this is why it's socially important. And like, bang, like, hey, we can do that. So a lot of these things have been created by that. We have about 50,000 hours of remote meetings logged in the tool where people have given us feedback, and we're just about to launch. We are 2 to 3 weeks away from full commercial launch. Right now, you can go to our website and still sign up on a wait list for beta. We've got hundreds of people on betas, like waitlisting right now. And we're hoping that it's going to go live in the next 30 days, because we're in the translating a few things, doing all that.
Yep.
And then we are in the midst of our raise also. We're raising a Seed Plus round to help market and sell this product. And as part of that, we have a crowdfunding initiative. Anybody in Ontario can put up $100 to $2,000 and they can invest into a startup. I'm sure you've heard the stories of people who put $5,000 into Uber day number one and what that was worth. So you know what? That's kind of our strategy. Let's get a Canadian technology to scale. We're completely local. There's no offshore development. We are developing this. All the founders, all the engineering tech is out of Mississauga. And we have about 21 patents filed, and trying to see what we can do next.
Fantastic. What a great story. Now, the whole time you've been talking to me, you've been in speaker mode. Can you do it in gallery mode? Because when I talk to people, I typically will end up having 2 people side by side. And can I have logos, nameplates, business cards for both people that are talking?
Hey, these are exactly the roadmap. So this is bang on. See, Brian, what happens is sales leaders come to me and say, a lot of times me and my field application engineer have to get on the call together. Me and my CEO have to get on. Or the CEO might come in and say, me and the CFO have to get onto a town hall together. How do we create an engagement where, see, what happens in a real room is the people who need to speak stand up and they go to the front. You agree? Yeah. Okay, so what's the standing up and going to the front of the room in Zoom look like? Right? What does that
It's mean? A little blue box goes up around one of the people in the gallery.
But here's the problem. There's no 2 blue boxes that go around. It's only one or the other. And if you have 30 people, it's jumping everywhere. So video conferencing hasn't solved any of those issues, but that's exactly our roadmap. I want to be able to bring you to the call. Imagine half of this call where both of us could be side by side. That's my vision, where now we can come in and dramatically improve the engagement without having to go ahead and jump through hoops.
So you don't have that yet, but that's something you're working on.
That is exactly what we're working on.
Okay.
That's exactly
the other thing I want to do is I want to start with a 5 or 10-second cool video intro. How do I do
that? Sure, right here. So let's just, oops, sorry about that. 1 second. So we have this mode where it's content only. So as an example, like watch this. Let's just say that we're going to start with this cool video intro. And I'm going to tee it up right now. I have this right there. No, so we have all of these modes. So I can start with a cool video intro. I can play through this whole thing. Then I get out of that mode. I can get into this mode where I'm beside it, or I can jump into a one-on-one mode because I don't want you to see the video anymore. Because now we're having a QA session, I don't want there to be a distraction. And then I can pick a different file and immediately jump into that deck. It'll remember where I was last, so it can jump back to the same slide. And I can have any type of mode that I want. Do you see how easy that is?
Very. Okay. And so I want to flip back and forth to what's on the screen, you versus me. How do you do that?
Right now, because I have reactive, I can only control what's on my screen there. But once we do this dual person mode, which is what you're talking about, that's exactly what we're going to be able to do. Your deck,
do both people have to have reactive, or can only the one person have the reactive?
So the concept, these are good questions. One methodology we were thinking is 2 reactive paying users can connect up and do all these cool things. Or maybe the better business model is I am the host and I can give you a link for you to join, just like you joined on Zoom.
Yeah.
Whereas the audience does not have to have reactive. So we're not there yet. We're evaluating different tech stacks to see, because if you're also a reactive paying user, you have the app installed, there's a lot more power, right? It's a lot better user experience. As you know, from Zoom or Teams, if you download and install the app, it's much better than trying to do this on the web, because there's a lot of limitations, right? Because when you minimize the window, it disappears. I can't make things float. There's lots of cool things we can't do when you're just a web link. So
now how do Zoom and Teams feel about you putting in add-ins on top of them?
Well, part of the problem is I personally think that they've run out of ideas. Because if you think about it, let me go back to focus mode here, 1 second. Zoom became the pandemic darling. Their stock price went from 0 to hero back down to 0. And can you think of one material change that happened in the last 3 years, Brian? On Zoom? Have they changed one button, one UI? Have they given you one feature you care about?
I don't think so.
How about WebEx? How about Teams? Have you seen any change?
They've become a little bit more dependable, which is important.
That's about it, right? Like it's all back-end infrastructure stuff. So what I see is a lot of them don't really know how to attack this concept of user experience. They're stuck. And what we are doing is, as a small company should, we want to invent and innovate on top of the you're standing on the shoulders of giants for sure. But the idea that video conferencing has hit a plateau is where most people are thinking, what's next? So
you can go on top of any system, whether it be Zoom or Teams or WebEx or anybody?
Doesn't matter. All you do is click screen share and share reactive. That's it. That's how simple it is.
Awesome. What an incredible technology that you built. I'm really quite excited about it. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back more in just 2 minutes, everybody. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. We're chatting tonight with a gentleman that I heard present at a venture capital technology-oriented pitch session last Friday, downtown Toronto, from Mississauga, with a really interesting product. The company's name is Vizetto. The CEO is Utukuri, and his product is called Reacto. Is that correct?
Reactive Suite, yeah.
Reactive Suite. And it's really quite interesting because what he does is it's an add-in on top of Zoom or Teams or WebEx, and it makes it more interactive, more dynamic, and it's quite interesting. And we've just gone through explaining what it is. He's now going to give us a little bit of an overview of the company and the fundraising that is on. Because I think the way he pitched it to this group of potential investors was really quite innovative and impactful. And I wanted all of you to hear it. Where you go, Dave? Tell us a little bit more about your company and what you're up to.
Sure. So company is Vizetto, completely based in Mississauga here. All of our R&D, everything is here. So it's pretty exciting. And our mandate is, we talk about our big, hairy, audacious goal, change the way the world communicates. So that's kind of where we landed on. And what we talk about is really remote meetings suck. Like, come on, we stare at this wall. We're exhausted by the end of the day. And most people can't even remember a meeting they had yesterday, let alone a month from now. So how do people make buying decisions? How are you going to go ahead and learn? Our kids are tuning out in remote classes. And the psychology of the remote meeting as to how video conference tools have set up is fundamentally wrong. So most people think that being a tiny postage stamp is acceptable. Actually, about 90% of our brain activity shuts down in minutes. So I've seen study after study where they look at the functional MRI scan and brains just shut down when they're staring at decks.
Well, I think part of the problem is people put so much information on the decks. The decks just become unreadable. You've probably heard about the 20-20-20 rule.
Yeah, absolutely. 20-20-20 rule. No, okay, can you phrase that? 20
words, 20-point font,
That's right.
Not more than 20 pages.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. I've also heard the 10-10-10. But you're right. The 20-point font and not more than 20 words. That's absolutely correct.
Actually, I always like the Moses law.
The Moses law.
Oh yeah, Moses. This is great. So Moses came down with 2 tablets, 10 commandments, and every single one of the commandments but one was only 7 words.
There you go.
So if it was good enough for God and Moses, it should be good enough for us.
Did you ever see that movie History of the World? Who's that comedian? Oh my God, he comes down with 3 tablets and he accidentally drops one, and then he goes, no, it's 2 tablets.
But when you think about it, and actually I should go back and check to see if it's true that every single one of the commandments was less than 7 words and there was only one that was longer. But, pretty succinct, 10 commandments, 2 pages.
Done.
10
that's
points.
A great deck. Good. Great deck, isn't it? Well, generally what we do is we take any video conferencing, and there's 3 things that we do. We manage your camera. You're front and center. It's absolutely critical, right? You have to stand out. You can't be a tiny postage stamp. Next, 90% of the value is you, but 10% of the value is still the deck. So you can put up your deck, your video, any document you want. Key, ink and highlight, support. And I can also save and record, by the way. I can actually use this to record fantastic content by clicking the record button, and I can create amazing videos that I can share on podcasts and I can share on YouTube or put it up on LinkedIn. So if I'm a salesperson, I can also introduce my product and my company like that. And we have over 20 patents, and a lot of this has been developed around the fundamentals of neuroscience. How do you engage, reinforce, visual stimulation, associate learning together, concepts we already spoke about. So where we're at today is we're kind of going after a pretty global TAM, total accessible market. There's over 1 billion video conference users every single day. The numbers are staggering.
Sorry, 1 billion video conferencers users every day.
No, sorry, I misspoke. There's 1 billion video conference users. There's hundreds of millions every single day that people are calling. I mean, there are people out there that are on 7 to 8 calls per day, right?
Welcome to my life.
Right. So there's about 10 million active video conference users in just the US alone when I saw the stats. And a lot of them, when they say active, you're talking 5, 6, 7 calls a day, right?
Yeah.
So you're into tens of millions of calls. So what we're looking after is by 2024, Gartner is saying about 30% of meetings will care about what they call presentation experiences, meeting experiences. Now, if you look at Meta is saying you're going to be in the virtual world. I don't think so. I personally don't think people are looking to put vacuum cleaners on their head and you look like a pink flamingo. I look like a giraffe floating in space while I read you my deck. Right? I really think that, by the way, one of our really good friend and a great shareholder in the company is Margaret Atwood. So she invested in the company early days. And I remember the story she told me a long time ago. She goes, the best virtual reality immersive experience was invented 10,000 years ago. Do you know what it is? I said, what? She goes, a book. Because immersion is not about tech. It's about sensory experiences.
Yep. Yep.
Right? So we think very quickly the top 1 million presenters in the world will be attracted to this company, and about $30 a month, you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars in opportunity. So yeah, we're going after this $30 US a month price point. Obviously, that's our starting point on web, enterprise and volume discounts and multi-year discounts, education discounts. There's lots of discounts that can be stacked.
Right.
But price point is less than $1 a day for a professional who presents regularly. And these are all the tools that you get. Yeah, we've got thousands of users. We have everyone from Morgan State University to US Navy and Leidos through to some major brands that are actually in proof of concepts, and they're scaling with us. So that's what we've been doing for the last 18 months. That's kind of our pitch. What we do is we allow you to ink, present, control your camera. We basically allow you to do all sorts of things that you'd need multiple applications for.
And so what do you need to do this? You just need the app and a second monitor. Is that correct?
Well, you could do it on one monitor, but then I can't look at you in a big, nice full screen. Like I pinned you on my first monitor, Brian,
right?
So I can see you nice and large, and I have myself on a second monitor. But I can do it all on one, but then you look like a tiny thumbnail, right?
Right.
I don't like the idea of you being minimized on my screen either. But that's all you need. You can get away with one laptop, and I can ink and highlight with my mouse, or there's lots of different options.
Okay, and tell me about some of these competitors.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard of people like Miro, who are like really a whiteboard. They're a very complicated design tool. So you can get into a Miro whiteboard and it's like Visio. You can do it's not really a great presentation tool. I don't know if you've ever heard of a company called Prezi, but they are a presentation tool, but they are more like they fly graphics in, and you know how when you're doing an NFL broadcast, you see all the cool graphics coming in and out?
Yep.
To make you look like that. I think the challenge is I think that sales presentations or normal communication is not scripted. Brian, you might suddenly say, and this is the problem with PowerPoint animations. Like if I have 5 animations and I'm trying to attract your attention, you want me to jump to point number 5. I was like, okay, hold on. Let me go through all 5 animations to get there.
Before you get there.
Yeah. I want to be able to come in and point something out that simply. I don't want this to be a scripted tool. So a lot of these tools are either design heavy or they're scripting broadcast type quality where they're completely linear. So there's not many tools out there that blend in the real-time ad hoc and this broadcast quality. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So there's a ton of tools out there that if you want to look like a broadcast, hey, I'm going to have all these graphics fly in. Right now, I'm going to say 15%, and whoosh, that 15% flies in. I mean, you know, that's the type of tools that are.
And if you want to say 15%, you just write it on the screen.
Exactly. Oops, that was a horrible 15, but
so you got to get good at writing on the screen with your mouse. Now, what are you writing with? Are you writing with a pen, or are you writing with a?
Yeah, I bought a monitor that had a pen. It's like, I mean, my laptop also has a pen. A lot of people don't realize about 90% of monitors and laptops these days have pens because Windows 11 requires it. Even though like a lot of people don't use them, Windows is betting heavily on pen computing. So I just picked this up on Amazon, and it's a cool little monitor, but my laptop also has it. That's what I'm writing it on.
Cool. I didn't know that laptops have pens.
Most of them do. Any touchscreen laptop will work with a pen, actually. So if you get a laptop that has a touchscreen, you could probably buy a $35 pen, and then you can start writing on the screen. A lot of people don't know that.
And this is with Windows 11.
Yeah, Windows 10 too. I mean, but Windows 11 pen computing comes out of the box natively.
Oh God, I'm gonna have to get a new screen then, new laptop. Oh no.
So today we actually have a great lineup of customers, but more importantly, we're doing a $3 million financing round.
Right.
We've raised over 3 already in the past to develop the product and launch it and do proof of concept and file the 21 patents. And we already have a seed investor. There's over $1 million already secured. And we're doing a crowdfunding aspect of this too. So any Ontario resident can invest anywhere between $100 to $2,000 as part of the new crowdfunding exemption that I think Ontario Securities Commission recently announced.
Fantastic.
So,
If you do that, what do you get? Do you have an information prospectus, or what do you?
yeah, that's actually, I can share the link with you. It's up on our website. We're going through a company called Backers. There's a whole K1 prospectus and all of that. And you can put your credit card down or PayPal, and you can put $50 down. And then you get common shares. You actually get shares at the exact same valuation, same shares as our VC partners. So there's nothing different.
And what's your current pre-money valuation?
Pre-money, we're at 20.8 million US pre-money. That's what we raised our $1 million on so far. And once we get to a few 100,000 paying customers, the valuation hopefully, we'll go through the roof, because we are remote work, future of work, that type of tool.
Tell me a little bit about your team.
My team. Okay, so my name is Av, as we've spoken. I've got about 20, I'm an engineering science graduate from U of T. I started my first startup. We built a virtual reality system like the Oculus in 1998 and took that company public. So unfortunately, VR never went anywhere back then. And the stock went up to $9 before the dot-com bust happened. But I've been a serial entrepreneur ever since. If over 200 patents to my name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of interesting things over my career. I've had the opportunity to go do so. And then Jason is our CTO and head of product. Came from the movie background, and he did lots of 3D animations and whatnot, got into code, and he's the guy that created most of the team. We have some great board members, including Miss Atwood herself. She's on one of the board of directors as an advisory role. She's given enormous insight into power of communication and how she sees communication evolve, together with Mark Sokol. He's our VC partner from Florida Funders, one of the largest funds in Tampa. They invested last round and this round as well. So just a very interesting lineup of individuals.
Excellent. And you think you're going to be going live in 30 days or so? Yeah,
the product is already out there. We have over 2,000 users. And Brian, you know where the line is, right? Like, the line is, you can always say it's never done, but you just got to get it out there.
You got to get it out there. Yeah.
We've got 500 paying customers already. It's funny.
If people are interested, want to check it out, where do they go?
Oh, Vizetto.com, just our website, and there's a free download right there.
Vizetto.com, you can get a free download, and it downloads onto your laptop or onto your telephone, or what?
Onto your laptop.
Onto your laptop.
That's Vizetto, Vizetto, 2 T's and O.com.
And if you don't have a touch tone screen with a pen, you can still use it?
I just use my mouse. It's a little slower, and I can't make perfect circles with my mouse, but it's enough to go ahead and still make your impact, right? And that's where the disappearing ink is really good, because, even if it's a horrible looking circle, it'll just disappear in a few seconds. But it made me achieve my objective, which is grab your attention.
Okay, and how do you create this business card?
Oh, that's actually all part of the camera. So when I click on the setting for the camera, I have my overlays. I can type my name in, and I can put my business card. All of this is part of the configuration of the app. So
okay, and so when are you going to be able to do it for 2 people?
Hopefully in the next 6 months. We have the code already lined up. We are waiting for our customers to become super users such that they can guide the second person. You agree, Brian? If both of us are not good at using the app.
No, but I want to control it. So if I'm interviewing you, I want to be able to put my business card in for myself, but I want you on the gallery with your own business card.
Yeah. That's probably in the next 6-7 months. We got to get this out.
I got to wait 7 months. Come on.
No, absolutely. I probably have workarounds. We've already done it in the office. It's just that we have to launch the server to connect you, and we got to make sure that people are there to, there's a bunch of technical stuff, and we need to hire a few people. Just haven't pulled the gun on it.
And when are you going to have gallery capability? So 2 people side by side.
Yeah, that's exactly, all of that is coming together.
So that's going to be another 6 months too.
Yeah, that's a 6 months. Exactly.
Okay. Well, it sounds like I'm going to have to try it out, but I'm going to have to come back in 6 months for the version that I really want.
Exactly. And
we'll
work with you to develop it.
I beg your pardon?
We'll work with you to develop that. I think that's an amazing use case.
Sounds good. So I also want to do the little video at the front end.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Should
that's
be able to switch back and
the whole
forth,
thing.
no problem.
Good stuff. And this is really interesting, Av. I really appreciate the opportunity to meet you on Friday. And then again today, thank you so much. We're going to take a break for some final messages. I'm going to come back and just ask Av about, raising money, turn away and from his own company and sort of elevate to his job of raising money and the other people, and whether these pitch sessions, VC sessions, Dragon's Den type sessions are actually worthwhile. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be just back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. My guest tonight is Av Utukuri. He is the CEO of Vizetto, Inc., which is a company that has developed a really interesting add-in app to all of the Zoom, Teams, WebEx, et cetera, all these programs that we use to have virtual communications with people in today's world. And he's walked us through the pitch deck. He's walked us through some of the product specifications and attributes and things like that. But Av, I wanted to elevate just for a second. You were at this pitch session on Friday downtown Toronto with, 60 to 100 people that were there watching you. You had judges in front of you. You had I think it was 7 other companies that were presenting, all of you 8. I think you only had 3 minutes or something like that to present, and then a couple of questions. It's got to be pretty tough raising money, being a small entrepreneurial company.
Well, in Canada, it is. I'm a serial entrepreneur, probably 3 different companies that I've, like my last company, we raised almost 19 million or so for. This company also, we raised over 4 million so far in a seed round, and also together with this friends, family, and fools, early days. And I've never done it in Canada that much, to be honest.
What do you think about these pitch sessions?
I think they're good, and it's great for exposure. I met individuals like yourself, you network, but again, I get the sense from my experience that a lot of these pitch sessions don't come in where VCs are ready to sign checks or do due diligence. It's a great way to network, which is where Canada stops, unfortunately. Whereas if you had some of these type of sessions in the Valley, they would be coming in with $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 checks for the winners, and it's a lot more of a process by which they can quickly get you what you need. But here, it's great networking, but I have not had a lot of success, no matter how well you do in these sessions, unfortunately.
So what is Canada doing wrong?
We have a culture in which we're very risk averse. It doesn't matter if you're a multimillionaire or not. Everything comes back down to, are you within 18 months of going public? Are you profitable already? And if I was within 18 months of going public or profitable as a tech company, I wouldn't necessarily be talking to, XYZ Ventures out of Milton. The reality is we wait way too long in order to go ahead and fund companies. There's a whole thesis in the Valley, if you've been there, almost every idea should be funded. It's the people that you're funding. I remember the book that when I read Google getting funded, they had no business model. They were burning $1 million a day. They had no idea how they were going to make money. And when they met their key stakeholders, they said, you guys are indexing human knowledge. You're going to figure it out. Making money is the simple part. Go figure the tech out. The whole attitude is different, right?
Fascinating. And so why don't you move to the Valley?
Well, part of it is there are a lot of the great things about Canada, which is your cost structure, because we do get, whether it be healthcare, whether it be the quality of life, obviously the dollar, like what you do with 2 million in Toronto, you'd need to raise 20 million in the Valley. So the problem that actually happens is if you raise 2 and you're hiring somebody, everybody's from Stanford in the Valley, and then they all want their $1 million bonuses, starting off. So it does equate. What the Valley does is it attracts people with massively scalable plans where they're willing to burn a huge amount. Now, the recession and lots of things could have changed things over long term, but Toronto definitely is becoming more and more competitive. And I've always been able to come up with plans like things like scientific research and experimental development grants, PEMD, government. So we have a lot of things going for us, but the venture capital ecosystem is unfortunately, a weak point in Canada.
And so what we need is more of these sessions that you were at on Friday, where you get to present, maybe a little bit longer than 3 minutes, and people that have got some cash that can come and are willing to actually make a decision, are less risk averse. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they need serious people who are willing to go ahead and not just, advice is free. Like I get all the advice I want for free. You want people to come in and say, hey, follow my advice or follow my mentorship. Like as an example, I've been to so many sessions at Mars where you meet all these advisors. And the first thing that they ask you for is, well, I need $5,000 a month. It's like, hold on, I'm the startup. You're asking me for a job? You should be giving me $5,000 a month and you take on an advisory role.
I always found at those events that there were way too many suppliers of consulting services and things.
Yeah.
People that were actually wanting to invest.
Oh, that's the thing. You're an accountant, you're a lawyer, or you're an advisor who wants $5,000 for a few hours a week, and you want to go get after 10 startups. But that's what a lot of them seem to be like.
Well, I thought you were a excellent presenter. It was a fascinating idea. I've been very frustrated with how much time I spend on Zoom and Teams and WebEx and things like that, and how challenging those meetings are, and boring at times. And I think you've got a great opportunity. I'm going to have to check out your information memorandum. Thanks so much for sharing it. So remind us, if we want to download the app, where do we go?
Vizetto.com, Vizetto.com.
And if we want to check out your raise, where would we go?
It's on a network called Backers. I don't know how you want to share links, but it's called the Backers, Backers, Backers Network. But if you Google Backers and Vizetto, our prospectus pops up as part of the link.
Thanks very much. Really appreciate you joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, Brian. Appreciate it.
That's our show for tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. I think that there are really a lot of very interesting companies. The more I meet this week, I've done a show on a mining company that's just launching a fascinating new mine in Quebec. I've done shows on alternative energy companies, and tonight a really interesting technology company. There's a lot of really interesting technology and companies in the Greater Toronto area. Let's pay attention to them and try their products, and maybe even give them a little bit of cash. Sounds like it's a smart move to me. I met an interesting investor at the event that you were at, and he was saying that in the last couple of years, something like 80% of the NASDAQ was 6 tech stocks, and they have obviously gone down fairly dramatically in the last couple of months, and they've laid off huge amounts of people, and they've got their challenges. And he said that he thought that the next couple of years were going to be all about the small cap, innovative, new companies that were coming, and that it's a lot easier to double your money in a company like yours, or even more than a double, than it is ever with a huge tech company that used to be 20% of the NASDAQ.
Yeah, Brian, and you're bang on, because at the end of the day, most people want to pile in when you're already massively successful. You don't make money on Apple or Google or Tesla. Come on, like it's going to be tough to go ahead and do that, but it's really the individuals. And what happens is in Canada also, we don't have this attitude that let's take 10% and put it onto high risk that develops the ecosystem locally. Because if those companies succeed, think about the Shopifys and the BlackBerries, they create jobs, they create local economic growth, they create lots of opportunities for every small business owner, where if you look at your portfolio, there's nothing wrong with 5 to 10%. Don't bet on one, bet on 50 of them. Because when you're in for a few $1,000s into a bunch of small companies, and some of them will succeed, the returns are there for everyone. And I think a lot of other countries and people have figured that out, right?
I agree. That's our show for tonight, everyone. Thanks. Good night.